So, who do you say that I am? A little over 15 years ago, I was ordained a deacon, so most of the people here in church call me by that name, Deacon. It's my first name, right? It's sort of like Monsignor for Monsignor Tosti or Father for Father Healy. In fact, a lot of people call me Father too. I can usually tell the visitors as they're walking out of the church, they say, "Have a good week, Father." So I know who the visitors are. I also hear that at the hospital, especially when I go in and say, I'm the Catholic chaplain here in the hospital. And they say, "Oh, hi, Father." And I say, "Yes, I'm a father, but I'm also a grandfather." I love being able to tell people that. So, what is in a name? It's interesting that people call you different names depending upon when you met them. I think it says a lot for who you are at various stages in your life. Most of my friends call me Greg. My sister calls me Gregory John. When I was going for confirmation in I think 7th grade, I wanted to choose Gregory for my confirmation name, but at that time, they wouldn't allow you to use your given name. So, me being a little bit rebellious, I chose my second name, therefore, Gregory John. I'm not sure if I really like that, but I have a few names for my sister, so we're even. Being in the military for 27 years, I acquired several names, starting with lieutenant. Now, even though I've been retired for over 20 years, most of the people who worked with me still call me Colonel Beckel. One name that I was given that is sort of interesting is my call sign. The name everyone called me by out there was the Deacon. And that was 20 years before I actually became a deacon. So that's a story for another time how I got that name. The many names I acquired says a lot about me, like son or dad or grandpa. I like that one. Or Mr. Beckel. You know, I have some of my children's friends from when they were little and growing up, neighbors down the street. Every time I see them, and they have kids of their own that, you know, are almost as tall as I am. They still call me Mr. Beckel. So, my wife calls me honey or dear. That's when I've been good. Sometimes I feel like I don't deserve those terms of endearment, but I do try to keep living up to them. We all like to know what people think of us, and often we can tell what people think by the names that they address us with. In today's gospel, Jesus is sort of wondering the same thing. So he asks his disciples, "Who do people say that the Son of Man is?" So far in Jesus' ministry, he has taught in the temple and astounded the teachers at understanding the scriptures. He had performed many miracles, driven out demons, healed the sick, fed over 5,000 people with a few loaves and fishes, taught about the love of God through the many parables that he used. In response to John the Baptist's disciples, when they asked him, "Are you the one?" he responded, "Go tell John what you hear and see. The blind regain their sight, the lame walk, lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have the good news proclaimed to them." Jesus was clearly sent by God to do his works. So the answer the apostles gave was, some say, John the Baptist, others Elijah, still others Jeremiah, or one of the prophets. It was obvious the people held Jesus in very high esteem. Identifying Jesus with Elijah or Jeremiah, they were paying him a great tribute and placing him in a high place. Then Jesus asked a more penetrating question, one that we all might ponder. He says, "And who do you say that I am?" At that question, there may have been a moment of silence and maybe a little bit of embarrassment where the disciples were almost afraid to answer. How would you answer if Jesus asked that question? I think at that point, Peter came to a great realization. He said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." Peter became the rock, the first person on earth who realized who Jesus was. He was literally the first member of the church, the beginning of each and every one of us here today. We're all disciples of the Lord, starting with Peter. Despite all of his frailties, all of his doubts, all of his denials, all of his weaknesses, Jesus gave Peter the keys to the kingdom of heaven. It is this community of faith, the Catholic Church, that began with Peter and his companions and continues to this day and will continue forever. Every time we celebrate the Eucharist, Jesus asks each and every one of us in the consecration, "Who do you say that I am?" My response is, "My Lord and my God." What is yours?